Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? So glad to be here with you today for today's Coffee Time Career Chat. My name is Patricia Hayes. If this is your first time joining, welcome. I am an executive advisor, career empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. And that means that I am here to help those of you who are looking to transition in your businesses, to transition in your careers and your professions, but you need some help because you have not been nurturing your relationships professionally well enough to make that transition successfully. And or maybe you've got a pretty good network, but you just haven't learned how to leverage it appropriately. So that's what I'm here to help you do, to make those transitions in your career and in your business, and to do it in a successful, authentic, purposeful way that's fully aligned with your values. There's nothing worse than trying to transition into a new space, a new position, whatever it may be, and then feeling like after you've gotten there that this is not it. This is completely misaligned for me. So I help you do that in an aligned fashion, and I'm super excited about it. I am grateful to be here today to continue with this series. We're talking about planting networking seeds, and this aligns with my most recent masterclass. So you're just going to get a taste of it here. But the masterclass series that began last year before, and so I'm now putting it out there as a full-blown masterclass in 4 parts. The first part has already been done. We're coming up on part 2, which aligns with this session today, where we're going to be talking about professional development programs and business retreats and how you can utilize them to maximize your professional networking opportunities. So you're going to get a little taste of that here. And if you want more, please, please, please make sure to check in with the links in my bio, or we'll put it below here in the comments so you can get registered for the full-blown masterclass series. And I'm super excited about being able to get that done and making that available as an ongoing product so that you can check in with that whenever you need to. Okay. So here's the thing. I love learning, right? Always have been. I've been that kid who used to fall asleep with books under her blanket at night, and used to get in trouble for reading too late at night because, I probably broke a pair of frames or two doing that. Those are some bad memories, but everything else is great. And here is the thing. A lot of times people mistakenly think that once they get out of college, or once they finish their professional program, or once they finish their official training, that that's it, that the learning's done. And anyone who's working in the workspace professionally these days knows that is not true, that the learning continues. For professionals, there's ongoing, continuing education. So, myself as a lawyer, I have to complete 15 hours of continuing legal education per year. I know that there's the same thing for other professions, engineers, accountants, whatever. On the business side and other areas, if you want to stay on top of where you are and what you're doing, you have to continue to engage in professional learning. And it applies across the board in whatever industry you are in. You can stop, but you will also be stalemating yourself, which none of us wants to do, right? So we do those things, particularly in alignment with whatever, our current employer wants to say, this is what we need you to attend. But what I want you to push back a little bit on is, what is it that you need to do for you professionally that, again, also will provide some benefit to your employer, especially if they may get, if you can get them to pay for it. But even if not, what are those things that you need to do for yourself to further your learning? And I want you to always be thinking about that because that is absolutely important. Sometimes you may get down the road and may decide, I need to go back to school. I mean, I know that there's some work that I want to do in getting updated and upgraded regarding coaching and some other leadership training. And, the thought of going back to school just makes my head swim. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't think so. However, I'm not going to ever say absolutely not. I'm going to think through it. I'm going to weigh my options, figure out what works best for me at this point in time in order to accomplish my long-term goals, because that's ultimately the thing. What do you need to do in order to be in alignment with where you are headed professionally? Now, that said, there's a whole slew of professional development programs that are out there. I've been through a number of them here in Texas, some of them better than others, all of them very valuable when it comes to building professional relationships. And I'll talk a little more in detail about that. The other piece of that I wanted to make sure you don't ignore is your business retreats. Those things that are happening because the bosses say, hey, we're taking everybody, away for this long weekend. We're going to do a retreat. It could even be a 1-day retreat, whatever. It's not about the length of time. It's about being set apart, about time being set apart and being able to engage with people at a different level. This is huge, huge, huge. Okay. Because here are the things that both business retreats and professional development programs have in common. They are selective in attendance. Okay. And that means not everybody is going to be available to it. Not everyone can decide that they want to go. This is not like conferences and workshops that I talked about last week, where basically, unless there's some industry requirement, if you decide you want to go, you can go. This is not the case here. Professional development programs most of the time have an application process. They're very competitive, and I know this. I have been a part of, I want to say 5 in my career thus far. That give or take 1 or 2. And they have been fantastic for extending my professional network by dozens of people in a very specific way, because you are now joined with that cohort of people as the class of whatever year and whatever the program is. Okay. So these are the relationships that are even a higher level and dare I say more important, because you've been brought together for a very specific purpose, one that you have applied for, you've competed for a spot, and then you are engaging in programming that is specifically targeted at you. Okay. The business retreats, same thing, except there may not be an application process, but you work for a company, you work in an industry, and the only people who can come to that retreat are the people who get named that business, who say, we need you to come attend this event. We need you to come attend this retreat. And in those retreats, you're going to be doing some high level strategy, perhaps some working through some business development, working through some visioning, all of these things that not the average person has access to. And these are the opportunities that you absolutely must make sure that you massage, that you pay attention to, because these are the ones that you can have relationships with for decades to come. All right. And they're super, super important. There are so many connections, opportunities that have come my way and those of the way of those that I know because of being exposed through these development programs, through these specialized business retreats and meetings. Now, somebody may say, again, well, we've kind of had a little thing we've been dealing with the last couple of years. How is that possible? I want you to know that I have seen several of the professional development programs that I previously been a part of pivot wonderfully during this time. They went completely virtual. Yes, some of the programming shifted, but then they stayed true to their baseline goals and their purpose. And it was beautiful to watch and to observe. Same thing when it comes to business retreats. You might think, well, that's harder. People can't do that. I have been a part of a couple of them, and they were fantastic. And one of them I'm thinking of was a retreat that was a 2-day retreat that was held online with female entrepreneurs, hosted by my former coach. And when I tell you, it was one of the most powerful experiences, not just of the last 2 or 3 years, but in my professional career, it is ranked highly up there with one of my leadership development programs. So that is how effective they can be. And I know that I can say that the women and the entrepreneurs that I participated in that retreat with, like, we are connected outside of that program now, and we stay connected with each other socially through the social media platforms, connecting regularly with coffee chats, all of those things. And here's the fantastic piece of this. Rarely do they even live in the same state as me. Like, several of them are out of the country, right? So I keep joking that I got a trip to Canada that I got to make because I got a whole slew of new friends in Canada and other places around the world. So I want you to think about that there is gold in them, their hills for sure. And do not allow current situations to limit your thinking on your ability to engage. All right. That's the main thing. Do not allow current situations to limit your thinking. Okay. Because that will limit your opportunities, and that is not what we want to do. So here are a couple of points when you're thinking about engaging in these professional development programs and these business retreats. The awareness of who's engaged with you and what's going on around you. Now, in those professional development programs where there's a specific track, there is a theme, there's a program that's put out and you're going through. So that will help you to kind of get your arms around it. But it's also really important because this is an opportunity to learn about people in a very specific setting, and where they will be able to learn about you as well. You'll learn about their passions. You'll learn about what they are very what they consider very important, those things that are their strengths and maybe some of businesses, and all of that, and how you are growing together through the program. Okay. And on the business side, when you're attending those, that awareness is really key, especially if this is one of those retreats that this is your first time. So I always tell people, yes, you want to engage, but don't engage as if you're someone who knows everything that's going on. You really need time to sit back, reflect, watch what's going on around you, watch who's interacting with each other, how people are responding to each other. Okay. And then so that you can engage in a way that's appropriate and that's fitting, not, for the occasion and for the opportunity. That is in no way saying hold back, right? I don't want anyone to say, like, oh my gosh, I'm too scared to go sit at the table. I'm not that person, right? So, but I am that person that in my previous career as a lobbyist, I would walk into a room and some people would go straight for, the political official, and head straight for them and try to get in their face and all of that. That's not me. I'm standing back and I'm observing the room, and I'm looking to see who's there. I'm looking to see who's engaging with each other. And so that I can, because I'm generating questions, I'm making observations, I'm being aware, so that whatever I do next is going to be in response to that, right? As opposed to just, rushing in like a bull in a China, store, and upsetting the apple cart in some way you didn't even realize it because you weren't paying attention. So be aware is what I'm saying, right? Pay attention to what's going on around you, and how people engage so that you can be able to engage and approach them in the same way. Right? There are some people who are the go-getters, they're going to come up and chat you up automatically. There are others that are going to kind of hang back. And so you want to be able to look at that because, again, you probably have a little more time to pick up on this. These programs, especially those development programs, generally last for several months, up to at least a year, perhaps. And so you're going to have time to really develop and nurture these relationships. And this is the beauty of the experience. Okay. You may say, well, in a business retreat, we're only going to be there for a few days or something like that. But again, because you are in that private select audience, you will be able to follow up with people from that experience in ways that you might not have been able to before, right? So think about it in those terms. The second thing is, I wrote it down as ask and answer. And this is about questions. This is about asking questions, asking powerful questions. And on the flip side, answering them. This is a two-way street, right? I know that several of those leadership development programs that I've been engaged in before, one of the ones that I think is the most powerful for me still today, I think was Leadership Austin. And the way that that program was facilitated was so empowering and so powerful that it still left it's left an impression on me. And I think I've been out 5 years. I was class of 17. So that said, what makes it that? And it's the questions that you are helped that are, that are facilitated for you to ask as well as to be prepared to answer. And that often would get to some of vulnerability. So you have to be willing to share at different levels. Now, these professional development programs all differ. Some of them are very, very business oriented, and you're just like, there, go learn, do these things. That's fine. Others are, take things a different route where it really helps and focuses on making sure that the participants get to know each other, get to engage with each other. Like in that one that I was mentioning, we had walk and talks. Like there was a goal as part of the program that you had to schedule a certain number of walk and talks with members, with the other participants. And it's just so awesome because that meant you set aside 20 minutes to go, talk. And guess what? That's the equivalent of now. Coffee chats. It's the exact thing, the exact same thing. Okay. So this is something you've already heard me talking about. And it's just another way of engaging in it and keeping the conversations going and keep engagement levels going. But you have to be prepared to ask questions. You have to be prepared to share answers. It's a two-way street. Same thing, whether it's a business retreat, a meeting or not, is you have to make sure that you're asking strategic questions, keeping track of them. Maybe if you're not asking them in the group, maybe you're approaching someone, offline and saying, hey, this question came up for me during this session. Can you help answer it? Right? This is how you engage with the specific people that are in this audience with you. And it has a unique opportunity for you to be able to do that. Okay. Then you want to make sure that you are working in an aligned fashion within these opportunities. And I say that because you need to make sure you recognize that there are higher expectations for these types of opportunities. Number one, because in a professional development program, someone's paying for you to be there. I have participated in programs that I have both had, my former employer to pay for, and those that I have paid for myself, either because, I was working for myself by that point in time, or my employer wouldn't pay for it. But I considered it important enough that I pursued it anyways. This is about making that investment in yourself and in your own growth that I'm always, always talking about. You must be willing and able to invest in yourself. Now you're going to say, but I don't have $5,000 sitting around to go pay for that. Well, guess what? every last one of these programs has scholarship opportunities. They have opportunities where they may have sponsors who will underwrite a certain number of people, but that requires you to move past pride and to ask for the help. Okay. And so, and then, or, paying, making it on a payment plan, whatever it is, it's about investing in yourself and deciding that the opportunity, the experience is worth the investment. So make the sacrifice, figure out a way, and make it happen. On the business retreat sides, consider it the same thing, only it's one that your employer has absolutely paid for. Your employer is not paying for you to go on this retreat, just so you can go get some great, massages at the spa that happens to be there. They are there for you to engage with these other people from a very select circle for a reason. Align yourself with that, figure out what those things are, and then start making the connections. Start identifying those people that you want to make sure that you follow up with, and to do it on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to talk to everybody in the first 3 months and then you do nothing. That's not how you nurture the relationship. Again, these are the opportunities to have relationships that will last for years to come. So build it in, take that time. I know when each one of my leadership development programs that I participated in, some of them even more hardcore than others, but I always made sure that you have the most updated directory, and that I would send cards or connect with as many people as possible during the course of the program. So that was always a goal. And then also to make sure to follow up afterwards. Okay. It can be a lot. One of my last programs, that Leadership Austin program, there were 60 people in that program. So that's a lot of people to follow up on. But I made a goal of it, right? I'd write 5 to 10 notes a month to each of them. I then afterwards, I literally had the directory, and I would check off who I'd spoken with, who I'd reached out to over the course of the follow-up year. Okay. This pays off. Some people are like, what does it matter? This is not going to matter. It does matter. There are people that I walked into that particular leadership development program not knowing. I know a lot of people, and I've been exposed to a lot of people over my years of work, but I walked into that group of 60 knowing maybe 10 or 12 people, and that was highly unusual. So I knew this was an unusual opportunity to interact with people I might not otherwise have interacted with, because they had done such a beautiful job of crafting the class. So that said, there are now people that I interact with 5 years later that I did not know then, but I know because of this program. They call me for advice, I call them for advice, or like, hey, this opportunity's come up, just wanted to share and let you know. Just from that group of people. Okay. So many strong relationships to develop as a result. I know I'm thinking of a couple of them where I was in the class with one person, but myself and the spouse became best friends, right? So because of our interactions, it was like, yeah, I love you too, but I'm going to go hang out with your wife. And so, those are the things that can happen. And those are the relationships that can develop. And as people scatter, right, as a result of the pandemic, job changes, all of these things, guess what? We're still connected because we're the class of 2017, right? That's just one example. And like I said, I have a number of development programs that I've participated in over the years. Another one that I'm thinking of that was a statewide organization. And that person, I'm thinking of one of the people who had moved around. I didn't know. I was like, oh my gosh, is he really working for this community college system? And I reached out and I was like, hey, do you remember? He was like, well, yeah, I absolutely do. And I have ended up doing a presentation for his organization. and doing some follow-up, having some follow-up conversations about some other things moving forward. And it's been 10 years since I was in that program. Okay. These are the opportunities that you have and that you do not want to miss out on. When I am advising my clients about things to do and opportunities to engage in, if it is fitting or works within their whatever their industry is, I always recommend that they find one of those leadership development programs to participate in, because they are built in gold when it comes to long-term professional networking, relationship building, that will feed your career and or your business. Okay, so there we are. A lot of goodness, probably shared a little bit more into it, but if you want more and you want the details on it, then I encourage you to join me for the next Maximizing Your networking, your professional networking opportunities masterclass part 2, which will be focused on these professional development programs and business retreats and specific strategies for that I've only hinted at here, but some specific strategies for maximizing those opportunities, for how to identify the right opportunities that fit for you, and then building from there. So happy to continue that conversation. Or if you're like, I need some more one-on-one or maybe a little more directed, maybe a small group, whatever, give me a call. Let's get you on the calendar, have a chat, talk about what your needs are, and see what we can do to get you transitioned to where you need to be moving forward. All right. Thank you so much. It's been fantastic seeing you again, and I look forward to following up with you later in the week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.